step into the game. We're talking wood and grain. Charles bring the heat on Southern Yellow Pine. Mascot U.S. species, all is on the line. Gregg with the spruce, keeping knowledge defined. Ash and moderates, drop the facts in the booth. We on the buy, the sell ain't no hidden truth. Economics and trends, we got it all so clear. Lumber Word Podcast, best believe we're here. If you wanna make more, get in on the score. Join us every week, you'll be hungry for more. Love a been keen, though, whoop made known. Such rain Charles, slide, plum ram known. Open to the scene, with the lumber supreme. Charles laying down facts with that southern yellow bling. Matt got that U.S. swagger like strong timber beams. Gregg's insights on spruce, rewrite the themes. Got the buy side talk, we stacking that flow. Selling knowledge, every week we still a show. Join the Lumber Word crew, let your business grow. For the sharpest minds, is what a place to go.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Lumber Word. Episode number 154. Two guests today, reoccurring guests, Matt Layman and Bart Charles from Atlantic Forest. Matt from the Layman's Lumber Guide. Matt, do I got that correct? Maybe you could reintroduce us to the...
No, that's still it. Same thing. Layman's Lumber Guide.
And how do people get a hold of you on that?
I guess the best way is to go to the website, just do laymansguide.com. For first-time listeners or first-time flyers, there's a 4-week free trial, or you could reach me at matt@laymansguide.com.
Perfect. Glad to have you back. And Bart, why don't you introduce yourself also?
Bart Charles, Atlantic Forest Products. Been with Atlantic 6 years. Been in the industry longer than I care to share. The gas and I are about the same, but I think Gregg's ahead of us. Whoa, what happened to my screen? Oh, there we go. Thanks for having me on. Long-time listener. I think I'm a second-time guest, third-time guest, something like that. So,
well, glad to have you back. You guys want to start talking about some lumber? We've had an exciting last, I want to say, few weeks. I'll just summarize what I've been seeing. It seems that a lot of the multifamily jobs that last year people were just buying and holding and cover them as the market was falling, got bought in. There was no need to panic on anything. And then come to this year, the multifamily jobs are starting to show up a little bit more. Southern Yellow Pine is quite a bit higher than it was 6 months ago and is sticking there. We're noticing the people that were interchanging it, especially up north, are starting to buy spruce again because in many cases that is the cheaper item. U.S. species are back up again. Hem fir, it's got its traditional premium on 4-inch to what it was normally carrying. Texas, Bart, I'll let you talk about that in a bit. It seems like OSB is getting a little bit of move, but overall, it's not crazy. It's slow and steady and plodding along. And Matt, I think I'll let you start off what you're seeing because I think your buy indicators kind of went off a few months ago. You were talking about this time frame. What are you seeing? What does your crystal ball say now? And what are your what's your feeling on things?
Just real quick before we do that, I mean, Ash, I think it was on this show in October that we did the jump on your table. Futures were in the 360s, and you were buying 2x6s at sub 300, and we told everybody it was a no-brainer. Apparently it is. Apparently it was. Matt?
Yeah, it was a no-brainer. I think the lumber market's very easy to look at in big strokes. You think about what makes the market move and cycles and seasonals and that kind of thing, but you still have that human behavior factor which causes doubt, which the market's been grossly undersupplied, and I use that word grossly with enthusiasm because I do believe it's undersupplied. And evidence of that is prices are rising. And Ash, as you just described, the market's just been steady and plodding along, but we're up $100. And
yes,
or more.
I saw a thing yesterday that I was asking my friend Chet on Chat GPT about something, and he said, people panic at extremes. And Ashley, I think your final comment today was, what's going to happen next, or what'd you say? Is it overdone? Is the market overdone? And from my perspective, I don't think the market's overdone because it's not overbought, and prices are up on steady. A guy told me this week's a trader. He said that he is middle of the road longish. So, and I think that's a great description of how the entire market is. Everybody has a slightly favorable bent to the market, but they haven't really acted on it to cover all of their inventory needs. Probably the masses are covered through February. They should be covered through March, but I don't think that that's happened yet. So I think we got another run to the upside after this pause right here. My stuff shows into week number 10, so first week of March.
Matt, so I want to ask you something about treaters, since you really spend a lot of time in that Southern Pine market. Are treaters, do they even need, I mean, traditionally, people like us that have been around for a while, we think that these treaters make one great big or two great big buys. I don't think they do that as much anymore.
Not like they used to in the 70s and 80s, but they don't need to.
Right.
It used to be that you pick the low and you have to carry the inventory for 6 months before you can sell it. And that just, money-wise, that just doesn't make sense. But these guys have truss plants and wood preservers have a lot of their inventory needs on contract. But for the time of the year that they're coming into right now, those contracts are not sufficient to take care of all their needs. So I think as the spring starts to close in a little bit, I really expect February is going to be a strong up month when you get, especially for Southern Pine, when you get the treaters and the truss guys all kicked in at the same time.
Bart, what's your feeling on the market you live in? You're heavy in Texas, right? Am I right to say that? But also other areas. So
yeah, Southwest Texas, Southeast.
Yeah.
So you look at, I don't know how much pine is up, but I mean, you look at like coastal studs, for example, we're up 100, maybe a little more than that. It's the first time that, some of the guys that, I'm tight with, and this was like right before Christmas, right before the New Year's, they were like, hey, it's the first time we've had a legit order file probably in over a year. So I don't know what inning we are in this move. I'd say we're probably in the later innings, but I'm kind of, with Matt and kind of what you guys are alluding to is I don't think anybody's bought heavy. I think they've bought some. So I think we kind of continue on, kind of plod along here. Maybe this little pause here, gives you an opportunity over the next couple of weeks to maybe buy at these numbers or buy a little better. But I think we plod along here to the upside. Now, this week in Texas there's been no movement because like the Port of Houston, I think it just opened today. Some of the reloads we've used are still closed. A lot of the dealers are still closed because not only do they have snow, which they're not used to, they have snow and ice. So, this week there's not a lot of movement, but they've been busy or busier than what they have been. And that state in general had been off probably 30%, in 2025 over, 2024. So I like the market here. I like it to continue on. We, like I said, feels like we may, pause out here a little bit, but pause and do what? Pause to maybe a small pullback. But I don't see much. I don't know what you guys are thinking.
I think it's just I think it's a pause to observe, but nothing's going to happen. I don't think prices are coming off.
What do you guys think?
So
quick
question. I always go with, the market causes the most. The market does what causes the most people the most amount of pain and suffering. And, if you can determine what that is, then you have a pretty good insight into what the market's going to do. So we spent pretty much the second and third quarter last year talking about the need for mills to curtail production as prices kept going lower and lower and lower and lower. And the curtailments were announced and permanent, temporary, blah, blah, blah. We got into the fourth quarter. Nobody built any inventory for 2026. And mills, because they were low on cash, were pressuring to sell every bit of dressed inventory they could. Now we're in 2026. Production is down by some measure. We don't have, I'm waiting. I think we should start to get the final Q4 numbers pretty soon, which will be enlightening. First quarter is always the lowest production quarter of the year anyway. So I guess I'm going to wait. The market's going to go higher until it looks more like gold and silver, right? I mean, silver's up 7% today after hitting $100 recently, and it's up more. The other thing that I'm watching a lot is the US dollar. If we look at what's happened to the US dollar in the last 12 to 18 months and accelerated lately, Canadian dollar's gone from like 78, 80 cents down to 73, 74. The euro from 105 to 119. I mean, these are big moves, and the talk is that that trend is probably the US dollar is only going to be getting weaker, not stronger, which is going to be negative headwind for European and Canadian producers, on top of tariffs and everything else. So there's no new supply coming on. Demand was flat last year. Any increase in demand this year, and Matt Beymer's calling spruce 2x4 high of the year $800. I'm looking at the March chart, and it looks to me like it wants to go to 670, 680, which will put you at $800 delivered. Will put you about $100 from there anyhow.
So, Gregg, Bart was asking what we're seeing on the eastern side of things in eastern spruce, and I mean, we're seeing mills offering things every day. Not a lot. Some items, Bart, like you mentioned, the fact hem first studs being up $100. I mean, 104 and 5/8, Gregg, $100 off the low trade now, higher than that at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that most eastern spruce items are up around $100 in the last, I'm gonna say, 6-8 weeks. That's probably about right. Some from early mid-December. Some are up a little bit less. Some may be up a little bit more. I mean, to Bart's point earlier about what I'm seeing is lots of orders on the books, and trucking really being challenging this week with everyone recovering from the winter storm. The most shocking thing to me is all of the customers that are asking for, where's my truck? I go, you were closed on Monday. You opened yesterday, but you want your truck today.
You said
it's
that
not late.
Last week you said that was going to happen, and it's exactly like they read the script.
I mean, we're quoting mid-February shipment on lumber we have on the ground right now. So, I mean, I get inquiries nonstop for stuff to ship next week, and I'm quoting the week of February 16th just because, we've got as many orders as we ever have backlogged on our two book sheet. So and I think, it's going to be more acute. I'm not seeing a lot of rail shipments on cars that I have due to ship. So I suspect that, Eastern Canada rail was going to be a little impacted. It's certainly going to be impacted, delivering to the customers stuff that was in transit. So I think there's a real squeeze coming here. And I mean, I don't know. I think maybe I'm going to phone up NASA. It's going to be a moonshot.
Hey, Gregg, I'll start with you, and then I'll go around to Matt and Bart. So, historically or normally, what we're used to is either accumulation and distribution. Either mills don't sell and destroy the market, or raise prices too fast and destroy the market, or buyers accumulate so much inventory that the market turns. And I haven't seen any of that. So what's different this time? What are mills doing right? Because I think they're doing a lot of things right to build an order file, because before you get a price, you got to have an order file. Or what are the buyers doing differently that's causing this to be just a slow? I mean, we're up $100 on something, and it sure doesn't feel like it until you look at the numbers, because it's just been a slow, steady grind with higher numbers. What's different that's making it do this, where it's not just a 1 or 2 week market where you move $40 or $50 and then you're right back to where you were?
I mean, I think market's always seeking equilibrium, and that's a moving target because you've got supply and demand. And I think that what happened in the third and fourth quarter was we've probably overcut supply versus end use demand, and now we're in an inventory accumulation, quote unquote, maybe inventory accumulation. I think you highlighted something about multifamily difference between last year and this year. Last year the orders were there, they were held short, they were covered along the way. I see the multifamily guys all looking to lock in their prices, and that's increasing apparent demand.
Yeah. And I can tell you the people that I've been selling recently, other distributors, other wholesalers, some buying groups that are sending me the same inquiry over from last week. And when I call them and say, what's this for? They're like, I know my customer sent that last week and they think they're going to buy cheaper this week. Well, it's like, just a lot of that. I mean, I've got 20 emails like that where you quote the same thing a week later and you're up 10, 15, 20 bucks. And I also think mills have done a better job of just, what do they call it? Quietly just curtailing. They just do some stuff and they don't say anything anymore. We all expect them to make a big announcement. And I mean, it was
we had nothing
but
a steady stream of big announcements for 60, 90 days. But
we all complained we needed more. We all complained we want more, right? And
a lot of those things weren't going to take place until the end of the quarter or into this year anyway. So we're just now getting to the implementation of those announcements.
Good point.
The next thing you're going to have is you're going to be calling mills and asking them for things, and they're going to be going, well, we're curtailed, and you're going, well, like, why don't you open back up so I can get that? That's got wait till that starts to happen.
Well, it's crazy. Even though you said we're up $100 on some Eastern stuff, they're still losing over $100 a thousand. And now you add to that the exchange rate, and it gets worse, right? Bart, what are you seeing different on the way mills are doing things or customers are doing things to keep this market plodding along?
Well, it's funny you talk about the multifamily guys. There's a couple of the big guys are right out here. I'm in the Portland area, and I was believe it or not, where everybody else is getting weather, it's actually big golf weather here still in Oregon. So I was playing golf with a buddy of mine. I won't say the company, but he's in the multifamily sector, and I never bring up work unless he brings it up, and he kind of brought it up, and I said, well, you guys had to have a good year last year because you face it, being for the most part, other than our fits and starts with tariffs, stuff like that, the last 18 months, if you were short, for the most part, you were right. And he even said, he goes, yeah, we had a good year last year. He goes, but a lot of it was we were shipping off of stuff we had bought. He goes, I'm a little nervous for this year as to what that looks down the road for them. So getting to your point in the multifamily, starting to see more. I do a fair amount with, quote unquote forward pricing. That book's been very lean just because of the premium and stuff. I don't know what you guys are seeing, but I'm starting to see more quotes, more guys looking for quotes. Actually had a jobber lock in. It wasn't a huge order, but larger than what it has been, locked in for some stuff for April. All last year, I didn't see any of that really, because it was more like, I'll just take the orders. They live on the short side. I'll just take the orders, and it's worked for them. But I think these guys are kind of starting to look at, these numbers, maybe it'd be better if we locked in. So I guess to answer your question back to the original thing, it's kind of, not to regurgitate what you guys said, but we've all been talking about this, right? Is these production cuts are eventually going to catch up with us. And I think they're starting to slowly catch up with us, right? And we're all, I've been doing this a long time. You guys have too. It seems like the industry in general we're lemmings. It doesn't matter sometimes to some of these guys until all of a sudden they start looking around. It's like you were saying, where you got the same, you're getting the same quote from your buying group, for the last 2-3 weeks, right? And so it's like, well, wait a minute, the last 18 months in general, if I just wait, I get a better price the next week. I think some of that's changing, or it has changed. I'm looking at here at Atlantic, we're big distributors. Our inventories are lower. I mean, we've had to, right? I mean, not had to, but just look at sales and this and that. It doesn't make sense to carry X when your sales are only Y, right? So I think some of that reality is kind of starting to set in. Like I said, over here the next few weeks, whatever, there might be maybe a small buying opportunity. I don't know. I'm not calling that. I'm not bearish by any stretch of the imagination. I don't know if I'm just a moonshot yet, but I do agree with. I think it was like you're saying, Matt's comments of like we'll be trading stuff to start with an 8 again. I think we will. I just don't know when. Right? I don't know if it's in February or I don't know if it's in March, but I think we will. Down the road.
The lumber market can be unpredictable, but with the right tools, you can make confident decisions. Fastmarkets is the trusted home of the Random Lengths Weekly Report, providing detailed pricing for over 1,600 products, including softwood lumber, structural panels, and more across North America. As for hardwood markets, the Hardwood Market Report is your go-to source for pricing benchmarks, market commentary, and in-depth monthly insights through HMR Executive. These resources give you clarity in a complex market, helping you stay informed and prepared. Fastmarkets Random Lengths price assessments are derived from verified price inputs collected via online submission forms, authenticated physical documentation, and interactions with buyers and sellers across the supply chain. All data is evaluated within Fastmarkets' proprietary assessment platform, Mind, in strict accordance with our published methodologies. Each assessment undergoes a rigorous approval process prior to publication. Key benchmark commodities are subject to independent third-party audits to ensure alignment with Fastmarkets methodologies and compliance with IOSCO principles for price reporting agencies. Get started with Fastmarkets today. Visit fastmarkets.com/lumbertalk to find out more.
I don't know if I answered the question, but
no, you did. You did. Just a quick follow up to one of the comments.
I don't know. I think that there was a little frontier gibberish there, Bart. But I understood it because
I'm good at it. But
Bart, just a little follow up to one of the comments you made. So April forward pricing, that's put it on the ground to manage it, isn't it? I mean, because there's no futures play on that.
Yeah, but I'm kind of looking at it more of, do I want to sit on it for 60, 90 days, or do I use the futures play? So in my case, the futures play.
But I mean, if you buy a car from a mill today to ship in mid-February, it's going to get in early mid-March, and I mean, there's not much time, right? The time there, if it's an April start, yeah, it's a buy and hold for sure. And I think even May starts are a buy and hold right now. Once you get June, July, that's when it gets problematic.
In this particular case, the jobber didn't want to do the buy and hold. They'd rather let me do the buy and hold.
That's what I mean. The buy and hold on your side from you.
Yeah, exactly. So, for the last year or so, that book, well, you guys, when we were together in November, in person, which by the way, that was a ton of fun, that dinner that night. But thanks, Steph.
Well, anytime you're with two guns, it's going to be, it's going to be a shit show.
Yeah.
But
especially when they have lunch together.
But I guess I'll stop rambling here. But the book and the interest for locking in forward has been way more. There's a lot more interest and a lot more actual POs being inked to it, where it's like, okay, yeah, I'd rather lock in and put the risk in my lap, right? As compared to I'll just take the orders and then I'll worry about it here in a month.
I think there's a huge amount of business that was sold in November, December, and maybe even the first 2 weeks of January that's really underwater. And I mean, that's some of the stuff that's going to have to get flushed out over the next 60 days or so. I mean, and I think a lot of, to your point, any softness over the next week or two is going to be met by guys throwing in the towel and going, hey, I better cover this.
Right.
Especially when they find out there's not a lot of excess and it's not going to be cheaper.
Right.
Yeah, no doubt, Matt. Well, look at Matt. Some of the people that, when you have your calls and talk to them, what areas are you noticing that are more busy or less busy, and what is the feedback you're getting from the buyers that you talk to. We'll just focus on that. Like you kind of mentioned a little bit at the beginning. I mean, are there people concerned, or are they all happy with the business that they currently have and the way they're covering it?
I think everybody, for the most part, fears the upside but respects the downside, and they think that the downside's a possibility, but not till after the spring walk, the April walk, when the home builders get their first road show going. But I think the biggest thing, back up to multifamily for a moment, I see a couple of things that are overlooked, and that is, the first one is that the big home builders that are getting into multifamily. I got a call from one of the largest home builders in the country a year and a half ago, and they said they planned to be the largest multifamily home builder by the end of 2025. And I know that there's, out of the top 5, I think all of them are getting into the multifamily business, but they're still working on their logistics, permitting, and funding. So I've heard the biggest holdback right now for new multifamily is permitting and funding, but it's getting worked through. I saw this just this morning that was it Fannie Mae or FHA or what of their originations for multifamily were up 25% last year, or funding was up 25%. So the government's involved. So I think multifamily could be a sleeping dog. You guys have talked recently too about the way existing homes get to selling, and all of a sudden you got repair and remodeling. All the boxes have had good Januaries before this winter weather set in. So I just think the underpinning of the market is there's a good spring uptick that's not going to be followed through with a whole lot of energy.
Phil, Bart, you sent me over those futures charts. Gregg was talking about it. I went through some of those. Are we just about on cash now? On the spruce cash, when you look at where we went to?
Yeah, well, I mean, you currently were 594, so that'd be equivalent to, say, a 480. So we're still carrying a small premium.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you guys have talked about this and noticed, I mean, geez Louise, like last year, it seems like we carried $50, $60 premium majority of the time until you got the spot month. So
this is probably the smallest premium this far out that the market's been. And I mean, we're one of the things that's going to be interesting to watch is the dynamic that we've had recently, where the industry's been hugely long and funds have been significantly short. We started to see a switch in that last week. We'll be watching commitment of traders. And the other thing is that we lost open interest over 3,000 contracts when during January expiration. We were up over 11,000 contracts. Now we're down at 8,000 contracts. You get into the sevens, and that's kind of a real low level. I could build the case that, this next move is going to be, where futures has been kind of like holding that premium and being supportive to cash market. You could see that dynamic change some, where it's more cash is going to be the thing that's going to drive futures higher.
Gregg, do you think the funds are getting out for the time being, not knowing whether to? Apparently, they don't want to stay short, but they're not really convinced to get long. And so I wonder if that's some of that loss of open interest.
Last week's commitment of traders showed that funds decreased their short position and added to a new long position. So we should see over a period of time the funds move from being short to being long.
They decreased shorts by 1,400, and that, you can't see my finger here, but it's this right here. So
I can see. No, I saw that. It's crazy when you look at like copper, and you look at all like commodities in general. There's some tailwind to lumber prices right there. So you got, hey, what's your tailwind? Tailwind is reduced production. Your tailwind is exchange rate. Your tailwind is commodity overall inflation. Those are all, and the biggest wild card of all is demand. if there's anything that increases demand significantly. This is an interesting thing. Our friend Brian Westbury, I was reading him yesterday or the other day, and there's talk about Fannie and Freddie buying down mortgage rates, getting mortgage rates from the low sixes to the low fives. How that would be a real positive. And then the other thing, he's kind of on this thing where, the Fed has $900 billion. Ashley, is that a lot?
$900 billion that you could account for, I guess.
Anyhow, they have $900 billion on their like balance sheet, just like sitting there. Why, we don't know. But
they're trying to save the guy that the big bank that's short silver for the last 5 years. I think.
Treasury could just sweep that, and instead of borrowing money, keeping interest rates higher, they could use that money and spend it. So I'm just, things that make you go, huh?
You get elected on that platform.
Yeah, you do. Or you get elected on something else. They move you over to that platform eventually. Though that's interesting. Southern Pine. I was looking at the Southern Pine contract. Conclusion I came to is people like speculatively trading it long right now. Many people don't know what they're doing with it. But when I went through all my charts of the Southern Pine contract versus other items you can hedge, there's some items in other regions that have $100, $200, $300 of potential upside using that Southern Yellow Pine East Side contract to hedge with it. And I think once people figure that out, or I hope they don't, before we can start putting some of those trades on, I think it's going to be a good potential way to hedge with some of the same type of veracity that we had on the other contract for the past 3 years. One thing that bothers me about funds switching long is the only thing is, and I think we mentioned this on the show a couple months ago, that Gregg, you actually mentioned March may be the time where we go a premium. The front month goes a premium to the back month, and that's still looking good, which honestly is a bummer for being able to hedge and do things based on the rolls we've been getting for the last 2 years. But all good things come to an end at some time, and then you got to reassess the way things work. Are you still kind of thinking it could do that?
I'm more thinking that I think cash can go premium to March, and I think ultimately March can go premium to May. But that's on a $50 to $80, $100 move higher from here that we'll see that happen. I mean, like I said, phone up NASA. I mean, this is moonshot territory, baby.
So if I'm looking at this correctly, gentlemen, and I apologize here because I'm not a Pine guy, that the Pine contract is currently trading at a $23 discount to print today. Am I looking at this correctly?
That could be correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's trading at that kind of discount to print, but it's also more of a discount to what it's actually selling for.
Okay.
Well, right. Well, March is 471, and what did I do with it? Hey, it's right here.
Print was 495,
and Prince 495. Yes,
correct.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So Matt, you're saying that the cash in the East is selling for more than that?
Yeah, because everybody's still trying to buy 14s and 16s, and so you really got a number. Southern Pine doesn't trade in random length quantities, random length tallies. It's sells specified. So you got to average those things together. And when you take a tally that people are actually buying 1/8, 2/10s, 3/12s, 2/14s, 4/16s kind of thing. And they want less of the smallers and more of the longer. And I think Charles talked about that last week, thinking the value of the contract was actually 16s.
He did.
But it's
he made a ton of money, like having no idea what he was doing. I love that about him. I love that.
Well, he was trading the directionality, but Matt, I had a conversation with some of the people involved in that this week, and I'm like, hey, you need to come up with some kind of tally and base it off of a specified, because I can load 7 different ways and give you a $40 or $50 variable in the price. And when you got two reporting agencies all complaining that one's better than the other, and what are the actual tallies that you're calling the mill and asking them for based on specified, right? Because if you're doing an 8 to 20 tally, I don't even think many of the mills make 18s and 20s on the east side.
No, they don't.
So, okay. So, and if you're making an 8 to 16 tally, well, the one reporting service that quotes it one way and the other one, everybody should have some kind of continuity in the actual, or at least a description of here is the type of tally we're quoting and the mill giving them the price versus the reporting. They need to have some kind of accuracy on what that actual tally is and what it's representative of.
Are you still relying on snail mail publications from the 70s to reach the forest products industry? It's time to upgrade. Advertise on the Lumber Word podcast and get in front of the lumber world every single week. Our episodes are tuned in by the largest segment of influencers inside and adjacent to the forest product sector. Decision makers who shape the industry. Ditch those tens of thousands spent on outdated print ads and project your product or service across the podcast universe instead. Ready to make the switch? Head to thelumberchannel.com, click on Connect, and drop us a line with your info. Let's amplify your message today.
Yeah, the difficulty there is one of the agencies, one of the reporting services quotes based on actual mill sales. The other does quotes based on mill sales, but primarily broker feedback. And you've got the difference between position talking and actual sales. And that's that can vary.
Do people talk their position in this industry?
Not
Really?
anymore. Not anymore. They used to.
Oh. Yeah. No,
I honestly, I don't know if so.
Well, no. The only reason I say that it was funny. I was having a conversation yesterday, Ash, and and the guy said, "Yeah, most of the buyers seem to be telling me that they think the market's going down." I'm like, "Really?" So what they're saying to you really is that they need/want to buy.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. You know, when your customer says that he thinks the market's going up, that's your sign that it's well past time to
He's
be
going
out
up and he's not looking for anything.
Right. If he thinks the market's going up, then you're hooped because he's already bought everything.
Yeah, and you start to get inquiries just to price your inventory too, to find out how well you're sitting. Like, but I don't think we're there yet. I think we're at the spot where buyers don't want to disclose that they need to buy, and they're hoping this little lull here is going to give them the opportunities. Which I think we're gonna come out after this week. We're going to come out of this freeze with guns blazing, and I think we could get that $60 to $80 you're talking about, Greg. I think we could get that in February easily. I think it would be $100 in February.
Yeah, I mean, Matt.
Now we're getting bowled up, Bart, huh? We're getting bowled up now, baby.
It's a slow and steady market, which as a distributor you love. And I mean, we were buying at the end of last year when we were getting calls from higher up saying, quit buying. And Gregg can't quit buying at certain times, but like we've backed off.
I've got
it lately.
It's an addiction, Ashley. It's an addiction. I mean,
I understand. I totally understand. I totally understand that.
A lot of OCD going on here.
I totally get. I totally get it.
I have to admit that I have some SKUs, using a Canadian term here, that I'm out of that I normally wouldn't be, but because of our month ends here at the end of this month, and corporately we got to get our inventories a little in line and some stuff. So I think we've done a good job of that. The market's helped us. So, February, it's going to be like, okay. I mean, last time, I'll use a perfect example because I know you guys, I'm in the Southwest and I'm also trading the Southeast. The perfect example, I'm out of 9 foot in a couple of my spots that, keep wood. And it's like, okay, last time I bought of any volume, I got to pay $60 more. And it's like, do I do that? I guess I'll think about that next week.
But Bart, what you just said is probably a good example for a lot of people. everybody's out of a little something and trying to keep their SKUs to a minimum and inventory just in a balanced state. But I don't believe the industry is prepared for the spring increase in demand, which is just a seasonal thing compared to the production curtailments that are on the table. I think there's going to be a huge imbalance in supply and demand for a short period of time anyway, at least for the next 6 weeks.
Well, here's one thing I'd like to share, because you guys touched on it earlier with the exchange. So I was talking to one of my European suppliers that we don't have anything on the water. And when I say talk, this was early morning email, right? Because they're 8 hours ahead of me. And he reported back. I was like, what are we looking at here for down the road? And he's like, based off the dollar and, now with the 10% tariff that came in October, he was saying for them to make sense to come here with any volume, the number has to be 750 port. We're not there yet. Don't know. All that being said, I know there is still other European suppliers that are still going to continue to ship here. It looks like that has decreased, but you're still seeing stuff come in, here or there or whatever, right? So, and like you guys touched upon, even with prices being up 100, the Western Canadian and Eastern Canadian mills, they're still not making money, right? I mean, we're still a ways from them making money. So I think all things point towards it going to be higher, but we also need the demand component to kick in dramatically. And, we'll see what happens here in Q2, but it looks, all things point to that we are going to get a little pickup in that. So,
but hey, Bart, what do you think of the lesser amount of EFPs being done this past expiration?
Good question.
By a pretty good chunk.
That's funny. I was looking at that. I think part of that was that that there wasn't the big flush that you get to where it's like, okay, all of a sudden that makes sense. You know what I mean? We didn't get that big flush that we normally get to where like you get the last, like in that last week where you can tag on, 5, 6 cars, 10 cars, whatever. Right. We didn't get that. I know my EFPs for Jan were way down. And part of that was we had already bought, right? So it wasn't like adding addition to your pile of on-ground inventories. But it also wasn't advantageous to do directs, if you will, or back-to-backs or whatever you want to call them with guys, because there wasn't the big discount. So that's what I think. I don't think it was less of, I know my normal partner, I mean, he still had some, he was willing to do some, but they got kind of cleaned up. But that's what I think. But what do you guys think?
I think it's a direct proportion to, the one big player that stands to EFP as a way to market their lumber. It's strictly a function of how many they have on, and they didn't have as many Januaries on as they had in November and in September. The wild card's going to be with the rally that we've had here. Have they put more marches on or not? I think the most interesting thing that I saw is we were EFPing in December off the January contract, and that lumber is scheduled to ship this week, next week. I mean, it was a dream. It was a dream EFP, right? I mean, buying Jan, selling March. Collect $80 1,000 up front, hedge at $30 or $40 over January, an undervalued item. I mean, it's like walking down the street. It's like walking down the street and picking up $100 bills, right, Ash?
Yeah, not having to chase them, no wind.
No wind. It was just sitting there, right? I mean, you didn't have to scramble at all.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you still have him right now, March to, I don't know if you guys are doing what you're buying and selling thing today, but and I probably shouldn't say this because I'm not in the way I want to be in yet, but buy March, sell May. It's $26.50. Probably should go a little bit wider here due to the end of the month roll. But I'm kind of with you, Greg. I don't know if that goes over, but I think that comes in between here and March 15th. So
I think it'll go over.
Really? Right. $40 move. That'd be fantastic. But
not yet. No, let's wait. Let's wait. I got time. We can slow play this. Slow play
All right.
it.
All right. I'll shut up. I'll shut up.
Matt, I wanted to ask Matt, what's going on new with the report in Layman's Lumber Guide?
Probably going to do another class when the spring rolls around a little bit. I've tried to get away from a little bit of talking about what's going on in the market currently, partly because of you guys. You do an excellent job of telling everybody why we're here, what's the reasons why we're here, and what to expect next, based on those fundamentals and disruptions. And so I'm leaning more towards forecasting and using just data-driven kinds of things. Like, for example, next week, week number 6, is the strongest up week of the year over the last 25 years, closing higher 80% of the time. And
nice.
And the month of February is the second most bullish month over the last 25 years, finishing higher 75% of the time after November at 78. So seasonally, historically, to fade that is just nonsensical. I think if you got 75% of the time it works, that means 25% of the time it didn't work. So you got to have the losers, but
and as you know, Matt, it's like part of, like when you look at those, those seasonals and historicals, it's part of in the context of like where you are on the overall price, like quartile in historical range, and what is your underlying trend. When your underlying trend is up and you're at a low relative price, you probably could skew your number and say this 90% of the time.
Yeah, on a 10-year average, everything is still well over $100 discounted to that. I think OSB's $200 under its 10-year average. Everything else is about 100 and change under its 10-year average. So still, the value is there for where we've been. And I think spruce and southern pine just turned the corner to be higher than they were last year this time, and everything else is still lower. So we're just
okay.
We got lots of upside potential.
Well, perfect, guys. We're about 45 minutes into it, so I will put on. Thank you both, Matt and Bart, for coming on, and I'll make sure I put in the show notes under Spotify and Apple, and I'll have both your contact information so everybody can get a hold of you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome, guys. Hey, great. Thanks for being on, guys. Great visiting with you as always.
Thanks for having me.
Happy trading out there, Bart.
Thanks,
Go
guys.
get them.
All right, man.
Yep. See you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Lumber Word. The Lumber Word podcast is dedicated to engaging conversations about the lumber industry, including trading ideas, market trends, and evaluations of overvalued and undervalued assets. We wish to emphasize that the discussions and opinions expressed in this podcast are purely for informational and entertainment purposes. They should not be considered as financial or investment advice. We encourage our listeners to make their own financial decisions, taking into account their unique circumstances and financial goals, and to seek professional financial advice if necessary.